All right, guys. So in the aftermath of the Capitol Hill protest, the media, of course, is playing the blame game, right? Somebody has to be to blame for this. Of course, the mainstream media is going to blame the president, but they're also blaming the senators who raised objections or who were planning on raising objections coming into the certification of the Electoral College votes on Capitol Hill. Now, one senator in particular, Josh Hawley, whom I believed, and I still do kind of believe, is the front runner for the GOP nomination in 2024, is currently getting crucified by the media. He is absolutely getting destroyed, guys. His mentor even came out and was like, I regret to have mentored him. I regret to have campaigned for him. Of course, the establishment is coming after him. Everybody's placing the blame on Josh Hawley. He is the second most blamed person right now outside of the president. And quite honestly, guys, I think that this is purely a hit job that's being done on Josh Hawley in this intellectually lazy analysis of the actual situation and a deflection from the problems, from the real issues that has led us to this point. And that's why I got to make this video, because Josh Hawley really is getting a lot of unnecessary blame, in which his true motivations, in my opinion, he may have been trying to prevent something that could have been even worse than what happened on Capitol Hill. But yet, because the media is so caught up in this narrative of wanting to play the blame game instead of self-reflect on why these people at Capitol Hill in the first place. What is it that has led people in this country to be this angry and upset with our government? Instead of having a serious self-reflection on that, they rather blame other people. Okay? Now, Josh Hawley, if you guys remember, was the first senator that said that he would object to the Electoral College votes. And guys, I've made videos about this before. I said the reason why he's objecting is because his constituents are telling them that they're concerned about the election. That's why he's objecting. He's listening to the people that elected him. The certification process in Congress was the appropriate moment to have those concerns heard. People have concerns about the election. The media cannot run away from that. And the more the media runs away from that, the worse things are going to get. Josh Hawley did not decide to run away from it. He said, you know what? I'm going to bring your concerns to a place where it will be televised on national TV and everybody will be able to see it. He did not say, I'm trying to overturn the election. That's not what he said. But of course, the media has to go out of their way to try to reframe what he says into some type of coup attempt solely from him. And then they use this picture of Josh Hawley raising his fist to some of the protesters as he was walking in to do his job. The only thing he was letting people know is, hey, I'm here. I'm going to fight for you. I want your voice to be heard. Nobody's interpreting it that way. They're all interpreting it as he's some type of leader of a coup attempt. Now, Josh Hawley, after the events on Capitol Hill, still came out and raised an objection for Pennsylvania. I want you guys to hear what he was saying and listen very closely to what he's saying. He's telling you exactly why I'm doing this. Take a look.
I want to begin this evening by saying thank you to the men and women of the Capitol Hill Police, the National Guardsmen, the Metropolitan Police, and others who came to this Capitol, who put their lives on the line to protect everyone here working inside of it. And I want to thank law enforcement all across this country, in my home state of Missouri and everywhere else, who do that day in and day out. And I just want to acknowledge that when it comes to violence, this has been a terrible year in America this last year. We've seen a lot of violence against law enforcement, and today we saw it here in the capital of the United States. And in this country, in the United States of America, we cannot say emphatically enough, violence is not how you achieve change. Violence is not how you achieve something better. Our Constitution was built and put into place so that there would be, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, no appeal from ballots to bullets, which is what we saw, unfortunately, attempted tonight. There is no place for that in the United States of America. And that's why submit to my colleagues that what we're doing here tonight is actually very important. Because for those who have concerns about the integrity of our elections, those who have concerns about what happened in November, this is the appropriate means. This is the lawful place where those objections and concerns should be heard. This is the forum that the law provides for, our laws provide for those concerns to be registered, not through violence, not by appealing from ballots to bullets, but here in this lawful process. And so to those who say that this is just a formality today, an antique ceremony that we've engaged in for a couple of hundred years, I can't say that I agree. I can't say that our precedents suggest that. I actually think it's very vital what we do. The opportunity to be heard, to register objections is very vital because this is the place where those objections are to be heard and dealt with, debated, and finally resolved. In this lawful means, peacefully, without violence, without attacks, without bullets. And so, Mr. President, let me just say now briefly, in lieu of speaking about it later, a word about Pennsylvania, which is a state that I have been focused on, objected to, as an example of why people are concerned, millions of Americans concerned about our election integrity. The state of Pennsylvania, quite apart from allegations of any fraud, you have a state constitution that has been interpreted for over a century to say that there is no mail-in balloting permitted except for in very narrow circumstances that's also provided for in the law. And yet, last year, Pennsylvania elected officials passed a whole new law that allows universal mail-in balloting and did it irregardless of what the Pennsylvania Constitution said. And then when Pennsylvania citizens tried to go and be heard on this subject before the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, they were dismissed on grounds of procedure, timeliness, in violation of that Supreme Court's own precedent. So the merits of the case have never been heard. The constitutionality of the statute actually has never been defended. I'm not aware of any court that has passed on its constitutionality. Actually, I'm not aware of anybody who's defended the constitutionality. And this was the statute that governed this last election, in which there are over 2.5 million mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania. This is my point, that this is the forum. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court hasn't heard the case. There's no other court to go to hear the case in the state. And so this is the appropriate place for these concerns to be raised, which is why I have raised them here today. And I hope that this body will not miss the opportunity to take affirmative action to address the concerns of so many millions of Americans, to say to millions of Americans tonight that violence is never warranted, that violence will not be tolerated, that those who engage in it will be prosecuted, but that this body will act to address the concerns of all Americans across the country. We do need an investigation into irregularities, fraud. We do need a way forward together. We need election security reforms. I bet my friends on the other side of the aisle don't disagree with that. We need to find a way to move forward on that together so that the American people from both parties, all walks of life, can have confidence in their elections and that we can arrange ourselves under the rule of law that we share together.
All right, guys. Does that sound like somebody that was plotting a coup attempt? To me, that sounds like somebody that was smart enough to realize that, there's a large group of people in this country that don't believe their votes count. We might want to do something about this. Now, I don't know if he personally believes it, but even if he doesn't personally believe it, you got to acknowledge, like, wait, something's wrong. This ain't good. It's not good to have a large amount of people in this country that don't believe their votes count. And that are also on lockdown. The government just denied them $2,000 and just gave them pennies for stimulus. We're sending money to foreign countries when Americans are lost their jobs, they can't open their businesses, they can't go to work in the middle of a pandemic, or now they believe that their votes don't count. It might not be a good idea just to tell them to shut up and just take it. That's not a good idea. And see, this right here, what Josh Hawley is doing, I get it. I'm riding him. I'm riding Josh Hawley. But this right here is leadership, in my opinion. It really is. It's knowing that, you know what? Yes, was this something that was politically expedient for him to do? Yes, of course. At the time, it made his chances for 2024 a lot better, right? Of course. But it also was the responsible thing to do in light of the fact that a large amount of people in this country do not believe their votes count. And they have not been heard in any court. Now, I understand why they haven't been heard. However, I think in a situation like this, the Supreme Court should have just took that Texas case. Just take the case. Right? Alito, Clarence Thomas, they said they want to grant any relief on it. But regardless, take the case. Put it on CNN, put it on MSNBC, Fox News, Newsmax, OAN. Come watch this. Come listen to this case. And then Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, all of Trump's legal team can go and present whatever evidence they got. Right? Whatever they got, they can present it in front of the whole world where nobody can deny what was said. Nobody can make anything up. Just present it. So that way people can be like, okay, there was a legitimate case that was done. You know, whatever the outcome of that is the outcome. And if it's negative, guess what? At that point, you've alleviated a large amount of people's worries in the sense that, hey, at the very least, it went to the Supreme Court and I heard it and the Supreme Court didn't agree with it. So it is what it is. A lot of people at that point be like, all right, I'm cool. Now, again, a lot of people still would have been angry and upset about it. However, at the same time, it will be much less than the population is right now. And that's why I really do think that the Supreme Court did the American people a disservice by not letting that case go through. I mean, look at Josh Hawley's statement, guys. When he first released his plans to object, he cited Nancy Pelosi in 2005 during her objection, saying that Democrats were, quote, speaking up for their aggrieved constituents. What does that sound like? That sounds exactly like what this man is doing. Doing the, quote, their only opportunity to have a debate while the country is listening. What was that yesterday? This is the exact same thing that the Democrats did, but yet the media is eviscerating this man because he's doing the exact same thing that Nancy Pelosi did. The only difference is that there's actually is a large amount of people in this country that don't believe the elections were legit. That's a large amount of people. That's the only difference, which means that what Josh Hawley is doing is even more important. It's even more important that he do it. And what really bothers me is that this whole scapegoating, this whole blaming Josh Hawley, blaming the congressmen that were basically pressured into doing this by their constituents, blaming them when you're not looking at the real problem that got us here. The disenfranchisement of a large amount of people in this country, mainly those that are in less fortunate situations. And that's on the left and right, guys. Black Lives Matter is protesting because they feel disenfranchised. Trump supporters are protesting because they feel disenfranchised. It's two sides of the same coin. Right? There's little variations here and there in terms of what people are saying and what their grievances are. But it's disenfranchisement at the end of the day. It's our government not doing their jobs and not serving the people the way the government should be serving the people. And Black Lives Matter felt like their voices weren't being heard. Guess what? They protested. Trump supporters felt like their voices weren't being heard. Guess what? They protested. When your voice is not being heard, people are going to protest. And that is why, at least on my channel, I try to give you guys all different kind of perspectives, right? I take everybody's opinion. I never dismiss it off the top. If I don't believe something and I reject it publicly, it's because I've done my research on it and I am 99.9% sure that what I'm telling you is true. That doesn't mean I'm not wrong. I'm definitely wrong sometimes, but I try to do my due diligence before just rejecting something right off the top. But the media, on the other hand, they've been rejecting all this stuff from the get-go, not taking it serious when it's something that should have been taken serious the whole time, considering the resentment that has been boiling up in this country for our government from both sides. The media should have took this serious. So they the ones that should take some blame for this while you blaming everybody else. The media should take blame for it because they're the ones that's supposed to have their hands on the pulse of how people feel. They should know this. But see, they make money off of it, like everybody else do. So they make money off people rioting and protesting in the street. They don't care. But they're going to sit here and act like, well, we're holier than thou in the aftermath when it suits them. And that's what kills me about the mainstream media, man. They take responsibility for nothing. For nothing. Even though they're the main drivers of the divisiveness and division that's currently going on in this country. But anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.